So the first thing that we learned from last month's experience is that you should carefully inspect your motherboard to make sure that there is nothing actually wrong with it. And yeah, that's it's better to have found it when I did than have put it together and then discovered something was not working right, because that's really frustrating. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to visually inspect with you the motherboard. So here we go. That should be pretty good. If you can't see everything, well, you should be able to see. Yeah, you got everything in there. All right, so if you look at the CPU socket, you can see that, well, I can see, I don't know how well you can, but it looks really good. I've looked at it from 4 different directions in light, good light that is, to make sure. I'm also going to use my magnifying glass with light on it to just double check. I do see a pin that seems to be a bit odd. It's down in this area here, but I don't think that'll be significant. Also, there are a couple, one here and one here, that seem to be slightly off, but I don't think that'll be significant either. And just take a quick look at the slots. I'm going to just do this one by one here. Now you don't actually have to do that, but you want to make sure that all the pins are correctly placed, pushed against the middle of the slot, and that there's nothing in the slot that might cause trouble. Now, I'm going to tilt it a little bit to get better light in there. And that does look good. Okay. That all looks fine. Now this is in the previous, I don't remember if I mentioned in the previous video, but this here is the VRM, and it's a bunch of heat sinks that are there to help cool off that area because there are some heat producing components. Now this particular model does not have Wi-Fi. Okay, so up here we have the CPU fan headers and the pump header. We have RGB header, ARGB header, USB 2, USB 3. The USB 2 is the one that was damaged on the previous one, and those are very easy to damage. It's very easy to insert the connection for that. So always be super careful. If you feel any resistance, just try again until it goes in easily. I'm going to take off this plastic. These are the SATA ports. And we've got a fan header here, a fan header here, which is number 1. This is number 2. And then we've got 3 and 4 over here. And this is the, I believe that's the, for sound. Let's see, communication. Let's see. These are also ARGB headers here. These are for USB. Channel fans. This is the connection set for the power light, the power button, the reset button, and so on. And then these are the 2 PCIe slots. Now, on the B models for Intel boards, they only have 2 slots, and then usually one of the smaller slots. So There's nothing in there. And nothing in there. Now, you know, generally speaking, you're not going to find anything. But since I had that problem with the last one, oh, there is something in there. I'm just being extra careful this time. This is for connecting your M.2 SSD. And there's another small one right here. Now, previously I said there were two here. There aren't. This is just one here. There's one underneath this plate here. I believe it's one. And so two full-size ones and one small one. The reason, this is for 2211, which is the really long one. The standard size is 2280, although you can also get the smaller size, which is 2260, or the 2242 also. So in this slot, you can do 1, 2, 3, 4. In this slot, you can only do the 2240. Oh, wait a second, is that the 2242? No, that's smaller than the 2242. And unfortunately, it doesn't indicate what that size actually is. And there is another place here for more M2s. Let's see if that's 1 or 2 M2s. Okay. Looks like that might be just for one. And this is also just for one. So it's really important that you have at least a couple of full-size slots. These are heat sinks to help dissipate heat off of them. This one doesn't have a heat sink. Heat sinks are, from what I've seen of some of the channels online, like Jay's 2 Cents did a comparison testing the heat sinks and didn't really see a significant difference, as I recall. So it's not terribly important that you buy the SSD that actually has a heatsink included with it. However, you can do that. It may make a small difference in the temperature. But yeah, I would suggest that you look further into that. And again, when I was talking about, when I talk about I want to talk for a second actually about choosing a CPU cooler. You want to, if you notice all these capacitors around here, these black cylinders, they are fairly close to the socket, as you can tell, and they may get in the way of some coolers because some coolers are very wide, very low down, because of the pipes coming out horizontally instead of more vertically to give it a shorter height. So you need to measure and make sure that what the difference in height is between the socket frame, the ILM, this thing is called the ILM, and these capacitors, just in case, so you don't have a conflict there. You also want to look at your RAM sockets. So when you have your RAM installed in here, how tall is it? Is the cooler you're looking at going to interfere or actually collide with the RAM over here, or is it going to hang over it? And do you not want it to be hanging over it because you want to have access to it at all times, or what's going on with that? You also want to look over here. Are you planning to be diving into your M.2 slot often or not? If you are, you're going to want to make sure it doesn't cover this. Also the same for that header right there for the CPU fan number, or channel fan number 1, sorry. So you have to think about that. Is it important? And you definitely don't want it coming so far over here that it covers up the graphics card slot, because this is the fastest slot. You can use this slot, but it will make a significant difference in that it will slow down your graphics card. Now, it is really, really, really important that you use the user's guide, because there's a lot of information in here that makes it critical. I'm not going to talk about that right now, but I will be talking about that in the other videos, because you'll need to look at, is there any sharing of the lanes between the bridge and the CPU, or maybe like this one and this one are sharing the same data transfer circuitry, I guess you could say, which are called lanes. Are they sharing it, or are they separate? Or maybe this is sharing with the ones over here. or maybe this is sharing with this one. That's all information that you need to know about, because if you've got your graphics card here and you've got an M.2 here, you may find that it's going to be slower. One or both of them will be slower because they're sharing the same lanes for data traffic. So that's something that you find in the motherboard manual. Oh my gosh. In the motherboard manual. And yeah, that was scary. Right, so just want to, there's the SATA ports like I talked about before. This is basically this is the battery backup for your CMOS and BIOS, so that when you turn off your power supply or you disconnect the computer, everything that's in there that's volatile will be saved. And this is your back input output. We've got video, and we've got USB and Ethernet, and let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Type A USB, and there's 2 more there, and 1 Type C USB, and we've got DP DisplayPort and HDMI here for your monitor. Okay. We've actually got 2 networking options here. We've got the full speed, which I think is 5 gigahertz Ethernet, and we've got the 2.5 gigahertz Ethernet. And then we've got SPDIF connection for sound, and these sound jacks here. And we're going to just take off the plastic protection. There we go. So, I'm going to put this back down. Now, I know you feel very scared, or some people feel very scared about handling these things, but the truth is if you take precautions, like I've got this on a board, and I've got it on the anti-static bag, so you should be fine. Now, this is called the ILM. It comes with every Intel motherboard. There's a different type for AMD CPUs. So the first thing you want to do is you want to push down and get it out of there. It really doesn't take a lot of pressure, although it will feel like it will. As long as you just kind of push off at an angle a bit, it'll work just fine. And then you want to open it up. You can grab right there. You can grab that little nubbin right there. And then you're going to want to pull out your CPU. So this is what we're doing today. Now, some CPUs come with their own cooler, depending on which of the CPUs you've chosen. Like this one doesn't have it, and it doesn't actually need anything more than the default cooler. But honestly, I prefer to not use the default cooler, because who knows what I'm going to buy later on. So as you can see here, this one doesn't have any pins because the pins are all in the socket right there. And in the middle are a bunch of little chips and stuff that I'm not going to bother to explain because I don't fully understand them myself. Right, and then you're going to want to look at your CPU. And please be very careful when you handle this. Just try to never touch the gold dots there. You want to hold it on the sides as much as possible. And if you ever buy like from a website that you're not sure about, or a website that's sketchy like AliExpress, and there's some other ones that are very sketchy, you want to take a look at this and compare it to images on Microsoft's website to make sure that this matches what you see there. And also the little dots up here should match what you see on their website too. If they don't match, then it's possible that somebody used some chemical to erase this, and then they printed new information on here so they could take an old CPU and resell it as a new expensive CPU. You also want to pay attention to the fact that there are notches on both sides, and that helps to guide you. So when you look at the socket here, you can, and the notches, you can see the notches are both offset to this side, and the notches here are offset to this side as well. So that means if you try to install it like this, it isn't going to go in. So don't force it. Very carefully place it in here and set it down. That you don't want to slide it in, because then you're going to damage the pins in the socket, and that sucks. All right, once you push it down, that cover will remove itself, and you don't want to actually touch this at all, because if you touch it and you get the oil from your fingers on it, that can actually affect the efficiency of the CPU cooler's thermal paste or thermal pad, whatever it happens to be, so it won't be able to properly protect your CPU from overheating. Now, modern CPUs are designed, modern systems are designed to shut down if the CPU starts to overheat, but still, you don't want to take that risk. And be sure to take this cover and save it. Don't throw it away. Either you keep everything in one particular place, or you take it all and put it back into the original boxes, because maybe someday you decide you're going to upgrade, and you will want to have that, because when you ship it, you want to be able to ship it with that cover protecting the socket. Oh, and this does usually come with a sticker. I don't know where I put the sticker, but put that back in there. And there's the sticker right there. You can put that inside your computer. You can put it on here. You can put it outside of your computer on the case. It's really up to you what you do as far as that is concerned. It's just kind of a show-off kind of a thing. And just set this to the side because you may need this. And that's really all there is for the CPU. Now, I'm not going to install the CPU cooler right now because I need to install the RAM and the SSDs first. Then I'll install the graphics card, and then I'll install the cooler, just because I want to make sure that the cooler is not going to interfere with anything around it, just in case I made a mistake. I've got other coolers I can choose from. It's not a big deal. I just don't want to have put the CPU cooler on first and then discover, oh, it's in the way, I got to take it off, because that's a pain in the butt. And so you want to avoid that. You want to logically consider what to put in first. So start with the CPU. Sorry, go back down here. You think about height. Whatever's on the bottom goes on first. So you start with your CPU, and then you can do your RAM and your M.2 SSDs. And if there are other specific things, as long as they're like lying down really low, you could do all that first. And then you put on your CPU cooler. If there's anything else that's going to be taller than the RAM and the M.2s, you can put those on, but you don't want to do it in the other order. It'll cause problems. And you don't want problems. One of the nice things about the Asus boards is they have the Q latches for installing M.2s, which does make it easier. Now you can see that this, if you wanted to install the 22,110 M.2, you would actually have to take this off so that it's not in the way of installing this. But most people are going to be buying this one. This size is the least expensive size, at least for when I was checking last year. This is going to be more expensive. This is going to be more expensive. All these smaller ones are going to be more expensive because most people go for this size. I'm not really sure why you don't see a lot of these, but hey, there's nothing wrong with getting a larger one or a smaller one as long as you get a great deal on it. Yay. My phone attacked the motherboard. So that's it for this video. In the next video, I'll be installing the RAM. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.